karma prabharate naraha nyayam va viparitam va panchayate tasya hetavaha. Translation: whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these five factors. Text 16. Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tuyah pashyatya krita buddhitan hasa pashyati durmatihi. Translation: therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the five factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Text 17. Yasya nahankito bhavo buddhir yasya nalipyate padvapi saima lokan nahanti na navidiyate. Translation: one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, is not the slayer, nor is he bound by his actions. Text 18. Jnanam geyam parigyata trividha karma chodhana karanam karma karteti trividha karma sangraha. Translation: knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors which motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer comprise the threefold basis of action. Back to text 8. Text 8, translation. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear is said to be in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Purport: one who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental knowledge, Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. Even if a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the results of renunciation. Anyone have any comments or questions about this one? Yes, Prabhuji? Even as monks, we still handle money. It's still, you can be a monk, like usually this temple president, he can be a brahmachari and he's handling the money on behalf of Krishna. But there may be specifically somebody whose duty it is to go out and perform fruitive activities on behalf of Krishna in order to engage that result in Krishna's service. And he should know that the results of those activities, those are actually not karma, it's karma yoga. So he's a perfect renunciate. If he's actually going out and performing karma, but he's engaging those fruits in Krishna's service, he's performing devotional service. Albeit, first it looks a little indirect because he's got to go through so many different, hurdles, and he has got to deal with a lot of things. But it takes a really advanced devotee to actually be in that position, to perform his duty in the material world and remain transcendental and engage that in Krishna's service. But if he does engage that in Krishna's service, he becomes transcendental, and his depth of realization and what he's doing is in connection to Krishna will increase, and he'll get that kind of intelligence to see how Krishna is directly connected to this. Even when we're doing like book distribution, we go out and we seemingly interact with the world, and we beg donations and alms from the people in general. And there might be some renunciates impersonalistic renunciates who look at that activity and they let's say, well, you're just making money. They can't see the full picture. But not necessarily so. One should not give up earning money out of fear that he's performing fruitive activities. So it's not necessary that if one First of all, Prabhupada makes the point that this kind of renunciation of giving things up is like false because we don't ever have it in the first place. It's not ours in the first place. So how can you renounce something that's not even yours? You know? But we renounce the tendency to enjoy these things for ourselves and we engage it in Krishna's service. But one who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear. So this implies that the devotee is already making money. He's already earning money, you know. So he's already the fan is already spinning. But one who's in Krishna consciousness, it means that he's engaging in activities for Krishna's service. So really, there's nothing to give up. You know, he's simply just performing his duty. You know, he's got nothing to give up, so he should go on performing that activity. That's a fully spiritual activity. You know, so you have any more thoughts on that one? Yeah, because it's it's indirect. You know, it's an indirect way to serve the Lord, um, as opposed to just like living in the temple and hearing Bhagavatam, and that's your life. You know, you hear Bhagavatam and you go on hearing and chanting. You know, and that's the basis of bhakti yoga, is hearing and chanting. And so when a devotee is working in the material world, what he's doing is he's making his situation a place where those activities go on, you know, but more or less he's got to take extra steps in order to make that happen, you know. And so, you know, it's an austerity. I decry austerities even here, like washing the dishes, you know. So because our real activity, our most direct association with Krishna is just hearing about him from the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and chanting his holy names. You know, and every devotee I've talked to, I mean, they simply have that, like, I just want to do that. I just want to do that. And that's, if I could do what I wanted to do, I would just do that. Those two activities, you know, but not necessarily where we're at. We have different natures. So we have to engage those natures in Krishna's service and we'll be satisfied. And of course, if one is working a really hellish job and he comes to Krishna consciousness, he can leave and he can go uh, join the temple. Nothing's stopping him. But if he has a family and he's taking care of his family and he's already working a nice job, you know, then it's great to just engage those fruits in Krishna's service. And you know, but we certainly don't recommend somebody leave the temple and go get a job. But if they have a job, it's not necessary that they must leave it and join the temple because, yeah, they can just engage that in Krishna service. Some, you know, it's not very deep thoughts on that. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I just want to say that I like what you're saying. And we got to think in context that Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, trying to persuade him to carry out a particular duty, which is in line with Arjuna's nature. He is a warrior. Earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, he said, even if you leave the path of renunciation, you're still gonna fight fights and battles because you're a warrior. So you mentioned, it's like they have different natures. So we can't just end in our nature, like, how do you say, prematurely. We have to engage in Krishna service. So it's better to engage in Krishna service doing, whatever activity that we're able to do nicely rather than just try to give it up and like don't renunciate. Krishna, he says that, what does he say? Performing one's own duty.
Oh, yeah,
It's dangerous to follow another path, but follow your own path.
imperfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Carrying out your own duty imperfectly better than following another's path perfectly.
Mhm.
So, to figure out our path, like what we could do in Krishna service, like you mentioned, if somebody's making money, perfect, make money for Krishna. But yeah, to hear and chant, this is direct service. Which, how can we remember Krishna if we're not hearing and chanting about him?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, another question, comment, question.
So I guess my question is surrounding prescribed duties. Like at the moment, it doesn't really, well, actually, my whole life has kind of been like I haven't had any prescribed duties, and it's left this like giant void. Uh, yeah, I just haven't really understood like what I'm doing, the direction that I'm going, and it seems like this is an effect of Kali, and uh, yeah, I guess I'm looking for clarity on how one knows their own nature. Like I know like little bits and pieces about myself. Like a little bit, but is this something I need a spiritual master for to unlock? Is this just something that I'm told? And if so, like, how do I trust that he knows me more intimately than I know myself? I don't know. I'm looking for clarification on what it is I'm supposed to do.
Nice question. Yeah, there's a goal. We know the Sanatana Dharma. The soul is just like we said earlier. I mean, practically speaking, all devotees want to do is hear about Krishna and relish the pastimes and relish Bhagavatam and relish the holy name. And that's the nature of the soul. It just wants to, and it's Krishna conscious, wants to relish it. So there's a destination. We're not quite there yet. We've got a certain conditioned nature which is preventing us from getting there. And if I just allow myself to do those activities prematurely, I'll just slip into the mode of ignorance and fall asleep, because I'm close to that nature, So I need some activity, some movement. And we even have a desire for it. I want to do things. Passion is there as well, influenced primarily by passion and ignorance. Some goodness is there too, a mix of these different things. So that movement, that passion is actually carrying us from ignorance towards the mode of goodness and towards Shuddha you know, so we can attain that, the true nature, who we actually are. So your prescribed duty is what's going to effectively be carrying you towards that destination of transcendental consciousness, pure devotional service. And that'll be that'll be your service. Carry you back home, back to Krishna. And so the spiritual master, he's expert at seeing what's your nature, and he's expert at giving you the formula for that. So it becomes the perfect vehicle for you to make your way back to that state, pure Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if you give up those prescribed duties prematurely, then you fall back into ignorance. Yes, we have a question from Maharaj or comment. Yeah.
So please unmute when you're ready upstairs.
Yeah, I think my voice will be difficult to understand.
We can hear you nicely.
All right, I'll try. So, in reply to that question, it's a nice question. That's the best question I've ever heard for a long time. One thing to remember is that our eternal nature is not this body. This body is a temporary covering. This is not us. The soul is us. And the soul's constitutional eternal position is Nitai Swarup Krishna Das, servant of Krishna. And that's our real duty. The other duties we have, even involved with the Varnashram, even the Kshatriya, even the Brahmana, even the Shudra, or the Vaishya, or the Brahmacharya, or the Sannyasi, or the Griha. These are all duties that are related to the body. And yes, according to the modes of nature, we can make some improvements by acting in accord with the Varnashram system. But much better than that is to engage in devotional service, because that is the real goal anyway. Even if we go through all the procedures of fruitive activities and pious activities and speculation about the nature of the living entity, or practicing trying to control the senses and the mind and the airs through Ashtanga Yoga, or we try to renounce this world and undergo different tapasyas, austerities, like we heard the other night, lighting fires around himself, staying in the water or cold water. These are all austerities meant to purify us. But they're not as purifying as devotional service. It's direct. And that's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and Arjuna is not really acting only as a, Krishna's not just seeing Arjuna as a Kshatriya. He's seeing Arjuna as the person of the living, this material world, the living entity, who finds himself in a material human body and is bewildered, is confused, just like Arjuna said. Now I'm confused about my duty. I don't know whether I should act this way or that way. Please tell me what is best for me. Because he accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. Now, accepting a spiritual master, your question was, how do we know that he knows more than us? Well, you don't accept him until you know that he knows more than you. You wouldn't accept him, not sure. But so you have to hear from him, and you have to see. What does he know? What do I know? And if I'm honest about what I know, I don't know much. So you may say, well, if I don't know much, how can I judge him? I'm not in a good position to judge. But there's another factor, and that is the Krishna factor. Krishna provides a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, for a soul who really wants to find out the truth, and who really is ready to take up the measures required as given in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is a spiritual master, but he's also speaking as the Supreme Lord. And because he's speaking as the Supreme Lord, he's telling us what all of us should do. That's why Bhagavad Gita is so important. It tells us what we should do. This is your duty. Your duty is to always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. And thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. That's direct. That takes all the voids out. of your life of not knowing which way you're supposed to go. You know which way you're supposed to go. You're supposed to surrender to Krishna and always think of him, become his devotee, worship him, and offer homage unto him. Then you're on the right track. And someone who can guide you expertly on that path, he's a good guide, he's a good spiritual master. And someone who doesn't know, or is a speculator, or likes to add his own things, he's not qualified. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you, Maharaj. How's nectar? That's our eternal duties to surrender Krishna. Spiritual master really helps us with that. Otherwise, how do I know, so covered over, I don't know anything. So he can engage us perfectly. So we can come to that surrender to Krishna. So, yeah, and the prescribed duty given by the spiritual master is the perfection of the devotee. Just take some realization, like, oh, if I'm given the duty to scrub the dishes, that's my perfection, and to do it with that consciousness, and that's bhakti yoga. So, yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Thinking like, are there any examples of somebody just serving their spiritual master and it seems like they're doing something like super mundane, but it's actually like super transcendental? Like, how can we understand serving the direction of the spiritual master, even though if it's like something as simple of like, cut the grass or like fold these sheets or, whatever it is? How can we understand that to be like serving Krishna?
Well, it's in relation to the spiritual master. We know the spiritual master is he's very dear to Krishna, and he's a direct servant of Krishna. So he's directly engaged in the service of Krishna. And us being engaged in his service is our perfection. So and the Lord is very pleased by that when we serve his devotees, and the devotees are pleased when we serve Krishna. And so the spiritual master says, you can serve Krishna by cutting his grass. It's a perfect engagement for you. And because ultimately the spiritual master is just a transparent via medium for Krishna. You might think that I'm engaged in some mundane task which has nothing to do with Krishna's movement or Prabhupada's movement, but the order of the spiritual master is the order of the Lord, as good as the order of the Lord. So, if he says cut the grass, you're cutting Krishna's grass, washing Krishna's pots. It's direct, it says take prasad, you're taking honoring Krishna's remnants, if he says, go get me some new cloth, you're getting some new cloth for Krishna's direct servant, and you said give some examples. Yeah. Like I was just thinking, like here's a nice one, like Narottam Das Thakur, with his spiritual master. He went to the place where his spiritual master would pass, his waste, and he would clean that place. That's like, that's like, That's pretty transcendental. What's that? It's not modern bathroom, though. It accumulates and it's bugs are there and things like that. And that's direct service to the Lord's direct representative, is the Lord's most intimate servant, So yeah, such perfect intimate service and surrender. I'm sure there's more examples. Yes, Prabhu.
Since you mentioned Narottam Das Thakur, I was thinking like that he eventually won over the heart of his Guru Lokanath Swami. He got initiated, and when he got initiated, it was revealed of his Snitya Seva, his eternal service to the divine couple Braj, and his service was given to him of boiling milk to make condensed milk sweets. So much so that he'd be in a trance and like doing his state on his mind, and he'd get burned on his hands, and he'd cover his hands with bandages because he didn't want people to know, but everybody knew. But my point is that he's just sitting there boiling milk all day, but it's for Krishna, and he's totally absorbed. But we're doing the same thing. We're washing Krishna's pots. We're cooking for Krishna, doing all these things, but only just because we don't have that vision, that realization. Then we think it's different than this activity. It's different than this activity. Where Prabhupada said, person who's sweeping temple floor is not better than the person who's on the altar doing the arati. And I heard one great devotee day before, somebody asked him, how does it feel when you're, up there doing the arati, worshiping God Tai? And they responded, you can be much further away from God. You can be much closer to God Tai being here in the back of the temple room because you're absorbed chanting in the right mood. And you could be right up. I would be super, super far away from them. Your consciousness is totally, splayed. So it's a very subtle thing.
Yeah. That's really nice. I was just thinking about, I guess, the practical realization I've had about that is I've realized I'm trying to, some idea of how I want to do things. I want to feel like this, and I want to feel like a devotee, or I want to feel like a yogi, or I want to feel like a, spiritual person. And I feel I get that ego gratification when I serve Krishna like this, and then I'm offensive to the devotees. Just in the name of serving Krishna, I'm just kind of funding my own lifestyle, and it just becomes about me, But that's not the vision of the devotee, So, yeah, it's quite interesting that when we notice a tendency to see certain things within other people, it actually is just in our heart, I'm not entirely sure how that's related, but something I guess I need to hear, because I spend a lot of time, doing what I want to do, chanting extra rounds or something, feeling good about it, and then being critical and finding faults. And a lot of times what I find faults in with the other devotees is for one, it's speculative because I don't even know anything like what they're doing. How can I say? But the tendency is that if I'm just a little bit aware, the fault that I think that I'm finding in them is my own dang fault. It's exactly what I'm doing, like exactly what I'm doing. And then I'm just like, it's quite interesting. And I think Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has some quote about this. I forget exactly what it is. You remember? Yeah, finding faults along the lines to the something about finding faults with yourself and not others. You know, but and it's interesting though that like to just be aware that okay, I am finding faults, and then what do I think I'm seeing in this devotee, and then analyzing my activities, and I'm doing that. That's what I am doing, for sure. Like in my mind, I've been on this weird thing of like criticizing, you know, just criticizing, like, oh, you know, that devotee's doing like this, you know, he's just you know making money and he's funding his own lifestyle, Krishna service, and he's not doing anything for. And I realized that's exactly what I'm doing, you know. So it's quite interesting. All right. Anyways, yes, Prabhu.
You made this nice point, and you said it's not related, but it came up with something. Like Krishna repeatedly says in the Bhagavad Gita that one to understand this, needs to be non-envious and a friend of Krishna. So similarly, like Prabhu's question, he's talking about, how does the spiritual master know? Like, how can I know the spiritual master knows me better than myself? And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but what he does know is the situation that you're in and how to get out of it. So then he gives the proper, method to follow to get out of it. And then, as Maharaj was saying, you take a devotional service, and then devotional service is purifying. But I was just connecting this point of like, what you're talking of, like fault finding and being critical. Like, seems like this mentality is connected to enviousness, or like critical of guru, especially because who does this tell me this activity is better for me than like the activity, and then clearly it's like I'm into it, so how, and yeah, that's a tough thing for a conditioned soul to accept, of authority, someone to follow and listen to and take their guidance. But along the lines of this giving mundane service to the guru, like the question of asking is like, we're always being trained up in life. So we're trained up in everything we do before we come to devotional service. And as we come to devotional service, we're getting trained up. And then it's said that as we leave our body and we're entering into the spiritual world, you take birth in another material realm where Krishna's having his pastimes, and you get trained up there. So, like, say if your eternal position is, a manjari, a maid servant that's younger than the gopi in Vrindavan, you have a guru. Your guru is the gopis. They're instructing you how to do everything. So there's always a guru, always somebody who's instructing us how to do more, or just maybe do less. Do as they say. And as we please the spiritual master and act in their accordance, Krishna blessed, because when Krishna blesses us, I have to find this shloka, but I think it's in the CC, the first chapter, like 645 or 245. Or the Guru Krishna manifests in the Guru, like to the degree of our sincerity and our service to the Guru. So somebody can serve the Guru superficially just because I have to, as a Yeah, just like a organizational thing or cultural thing. To really enter in deep with the relationship of the guru, Krishna can manifest in that relationship and make it grow deeper and deeper to ways that we never expected could. And this is completely not limited to material proximity. Most of Srila Prabhupada's disciples rarely had access to him. Only when they came around to their part of the world they were in, once a year, once every 2 years. And we could see many of Prabhupada's disciples who did a lot of great service for him directly and had personal association. They fell down or entered into some weird states. But then there's devotees who never had association with Prabhupada and just took his Vani, his instruction, and applied it to their life. And they're really great Vaishnavas. So to understand Guru Tattva is a very key component of the Vaishnava philosophy. And it's very difficult to just, do as one person says, but this is the highest principles to serve the Guru, and then everything else will come from serving the Guru. I mean, I'm not so qualified, but one could speak much more on the topic. Hare Krishna.
All right, thank you for that, Guru. Yeah, there's said that there's two tattvas are like the spiritual categories, so you have like Harinam tattva, all the conclusions that are of the holy name. You have, Goloka, the spiritual world, all the conclusions that are given about the spiritual world, and Guru. It said that the Guru is the most difficult one to understand. Shiva tattva and Guru tattva are considered like some of the most difficult, tattvas to understand, because the Guru is as good as God, but he's not God. So it's an interesting thing to try to understand. It's difficult thing to understand. Anyways, because we're out of time. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Ki Jai.